Studio with that music coming out from Yao Hero. If you do recall and following the conversations here on the show, we talked about Yao Hero yesterday as one of the very first, one of the emerging new leaders of the new school, if I can say that. The people whose music seems to be in some very, I don't want to use the word mysterious, but making its way to become one of the most sought after songs on some of the DSPs. Earlier on, before that, we also jammed to Olive the Boy, they call him, who also happens to be one of the leaders of the new school. Now, data and science is telling us that these cats might just be the next big thing that Ghana would have. Well, today on the show, we want to look into this, we want to understand how possible it is to use data and this science I talk of to produce the next big hit. All right, so contrary to the general perception that music is created out of, singers, mood, the state of mind, we are going to explore the data science method in predicting the next big hit. We have a few stakeholders who will join us on the show later on, or immediately, in fact, to help us understand this. Of course, we've reached a certain era where even the big artists or the A-list artists are all they're not just going into the studio to do any song out of mood. It's actually a lot of things, a lot of business thought going into a song before they produce, who they feature, how they feature, when they release, how they release, what markets, what jargons, what language they use, all in an intentional effort to try and get bigger numbers, bigger views. Tenny released a new song, and guess what? She just dropped the beat, and people are dancing to it. Well, there must be a reason why she didn't even introduce lyrics first and the beat. Data and science is talking. Well, a few years ago, say back in 2020, Good Music, a data report company, or a data or statistics, music statistics company, set up by our very own, hey, should I mention his nickname? Well, set this up to help give a lot of data to the consumption of music in Ghana. Well, still been running, but in 2020, he did share a report to the VGMA team to give us an idea of which songs, which artists, where the consumption is happening, who is consuming what kind of music here in Ghana. Well, before we jump into our convo this morning, I'll let our big researcher, Olele, give us insights into this report that was shared to the VGMA team back in 2020 by Good Music. Olele.
Yeah,
Good morning.
you, Jay.
Welcome to the show after a very wet morning.
Yes, wet morning. Yeah,
we hope we dry you up nicely.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's
I need
quite
some
interesting.
hot cocoa.
Yeah, very important.
hot
It's
cocoa.
quite interesting how we've gone from the era of just using mood and hope
And
to be
streets.
able to, and streets, yeah, like streets.
Streets.
Yeah, to be able to predict the next big thing. But now certain artists are now being more intentional, using data and science to be able to detect what they should do, why they should do what, how they should do what, And of course, even Black was about to release his new album.
Yeah,
I'm very
well,
sure
it's
for
like an EP sort of.
an EP.
Yeah.
I'm very sure with the first breakthrough for him. Maybe it was just by luck. But now I don't think A-list management will be looking at luck to work any longer.
Yeah.
It's going to be they're actually going to use data to tell. At a point in time, this independent artist, what's his name? His song blew up in Kenya. Ghanaian artist, beat producer,
Nicktoons?
Magnum.
Oh, yeah,
yes, Magnum had a classic hit that was making waves in Kenya,
Oh, no,
and
that
for
sounds
him, it only made sense to move all the way to that side of the African continent to try and amplify himself and his music there. It happened to even Kitty,
Yeah.
of course, data telling him that India was consuming Touch It the most, so it only made sense to move there. This is how data is predicting what to do next, or telling you what to do next. How about data telling us who is going to come out next? Olele, let's run through this report.
Okay,
now.
so for the benefit of the conversation we're going to have, we just want to throw the spotlight or highlight the importance of data for our traditional media.
Yeah.
Because often it's all about data on the streaming. So this document we have is a data summary produced by Good Music. That was also given to the board or the academy for the Ghana Music Awards. So it's from January 1st to December 31, 2020. So I'll just give you a summary of how they actually rank the criteria for airplay. So one of them is the fact that Good Music classifies a broadcast as a valid airplay if it lasts 40 seconds. Okay, so the way the system is the way the system takes data, or the way the system records airplay, is when the song lasts at least 40 seconds. So it's not like when the DJ plays and then plays like tease you and then goes to the next song. That wouldn't be an airplay. But if it lasts at least 40 seconds, you want to hear the all right. So that was just for my fans. But yeah, so last 40 seconds or more, and it must be the only song being played at the time of monitoring. So it's not like when you are playing within that 40 seconds, you want to play Abin Waha in addition. No, it wouldn't work. Okay, that's not how it's going to be recorded. And also to avoid the influence of promotions, commercials, and sound bits of a song, the system, however, keeps under 40 seconds counts in the database. So regardless of whether you play 40 seconds or not, they'll just keep it there, but they will not record it as a complete airplay. Okay, now this is how we are going to go through the list. Let me find. Okay, so as at 2020, the radio stations that were monitored were based on survey data of the most listened radio stations nationwide.
Okay, hold on right there. Let me just chip this in. I'm just getting some reports that around trade fair is heavily flooded. I'm just getting some videos as well. So for those of you who are applying that route, you might want to be very careful. And I'm sure other parts of the capital city as well. Okay, Olile, thanks.
Okay, so these are data based or survey data based on the most listened radio stations nationwide. The radio stations represent more than 88.50%. This was in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. And 88.50% of total radio universe audience estimate of Geopo. So those of us who are in media, we know Geopo very well. Geopo used to be that Ipsos now that determine or tells you where or whoever is listening to you or how many and so on and so forth. And at the time, Geopo was about 12,367 at the time. Okay, and all these stations were registered with the National Communication Authority. As at 2020, Good Music was current at the time monitoring 80 plus radio stations, known to be the entertainment and music play station in the country. I am breaking down the criteria so when we get into the deep dive session, people understand what we're talking about. Now, if new stations were added or needed to ensure the goal, those radio stations would have to be equally monitored or considered under the National Communications Authority. And then also, Good Music also went further to monitor Ghanaian songs that were monitored for international airplay. And I think Cyril will come and tell us about the international. Is it international ID? International what? Most of the Ghanaian songs they didn't have the international ID, so they couldn't play their songs, lest they couldn't pay for the royalties. Okay, so let's go into. Now it would interest you to know that from January 1 to December 31, in Greater Accra, the biggest song in Greater Accra was Kiddie Enjoyment.
So the year is in 20. So the year is 2020.
2020, yes.
Yeah, just let's just use 2020. But before we even move on to that, can we just recount the songs that were hits within that that time, so we can just let our listeners familiarize themselves with the conversation better. In 2020,
we had Atajwa from Busupenyong. We had Kiddie with Enjoyment. We had Stoneboy with Nominates. That's Stoneboy and Kerry Hilson. We had Kiddie with Say Cheese. We had Putu, and we had Happy Day, and we had No Darling. Yeah, and then we also had Open Gate. Open Gate.
Oh wow, Open Gate was 2020.
Yes, Open Gate 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, and then honorable mentions were Sisa, Inner Song, Sobolo, Take Care of You by Adina.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna take care of you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have a fair idea of some of the songs that were trending within that year of review. So now let's go on to the to what you're about to share.
So the yearly reports, according to Good Music, from January 1 to December 31, I'm going to list the songs according to the region. Okay. So in Greater Accra, the biggest song in Greater Accra was Enjoyment by Kiddie, and it had 3,466 airplays. 3,466 airplays. In Eastern region, Kiddie takes the region as well with 98 airplays. Ashanti region also had Kiddie with 820 airplays. Central region had Kiddie by Enjoyment by Kiddie again. So Kiddie was taking Greater Accra Eastern region, Ashanti region, Central region, Western region, Volta region, Bono East region, Bono region. So that's 8 regions. So Enjoyment by Kidi was played in Greater Accra, Eastern region, Ashanti region, Central region, Western region, Volta region, Bono East region, and Bono region. Right? Now, when we come to Ahafo region, the biggest song in Ahafo region from January 1 to December 31 in 2020 was King Promise Tessa.
Interesting.
And that had 110 plays.
Okay, let's hold on right there before you continue. Okay, no,
let me finish.
And then because I want to ask a question in regards to that.
And in the northern region, the biggest song in the northern region from January 1 to December 31 was Tamale, a song by Edem and Optional King. Tamale, a song by Edem and Optional King. And that song was played 150 times. Now, when
as recorded, listeners, please, as recorded through the system of good music.
Good music,
please,
yes.
So that you don't say that only that one, please. There's a structure which we will talk to the persons behind good music this morning to give us an understanding of the structure.
And interestingly, when you go to the Upper West region, so for Northeast OT region and Upper East region, there were no and Savannah region, Northeast region, there were no records taken because I want to believe they didn't have the entertainment radio, music and entertainment radio stations there, so they're all blanks. But in the Upper West region, which I find very interesting, the biggest song that was played there was Manifest. We know they here, featuring Kelvin Boy and KLP, and that song was played 18 times.
Okay, so let's look at what possibly accounts for Kidi's Enjoyment getting that much of an audience, and then Edem's song and King Promise Sisa.
I mean, we'll later break it down to the quarters because there are interesting stats and data.
I want to throw that to Lenny and Cyril for us to look into this real quickly in terms of production, rhythm, lyrics, lyrical content. It's I will kill you with enjoyment.
Enjoyment, yeah.
Well, I mean, for that song, it was one of those classic songs that fits almost every occasion. And you know how we are very particular about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, wedding, funerals, parties. I mean, outdoorings and all that. It's very easy to jam.
Yeah.
Such party music in there.
I think it's post-COVID.
Yeah, it was
2020.
No, was it?
No, it's actually.
It was just around that time,
peak COVID.
as well as the Say Cheese.
Yeah, I mean, Say Cheese and Enjoyment came out at the same time, at the same year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when he was releasing back to back, right?
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Enjoyment. I think it's I want to believe it's the message and a time where everybody was, really trying to find some kind of escape. If you ask me, it's about finding escape in enjoying the little space or the little what you may call it, area you find yourself in, because people were not going out. I even thought it was because of post-COVID, but if it's even peak COVID, then it could actually contribute to the growth of the song. Because as you go down, I will show you how there was some point where Kidi was on top and then Stonebwoy comes in to take over.
Let's move on now. Let's go on. We don't have many
so for example, the first quarter, like we said, Kidi topped the first and second quarter with Enjoyment, and in the third quarter, Stonebwoy came with Putu, and in the fourth quarter, Kwame June came with Open Gate.
Look at that. Okay, hold on right there. Interesting. We have the brains behind
let's talk to Ken.
Good music. Ken is on the line to join us via Zoom. It's raining heavily, so we couldn't pull him in here. But Ken, good morning. If you can hear us.
Hi. Good morning. How you doing, Jay?
Yes, my brother. I'm good. It's been a minute.
Yep, it's been a while.
Okay, I'm just a bit struggling to hear this. But anyway, I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear, can't you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
All right, awesome. We'll make do with what we have here. Once we can hear you here, whichever ways is fine. So, give us a little bit insights to what exactly what was the purpose. I say was because I know you've gone on a hold per se, but since 2020 we haven't had any reports. But give us insight into what the purpose of this of Good Music's platform was.
Okay, so Good Music's platform is a music monitoring platform. So basically, we monitor radio stations across the country and globally to see how songs are doing, so that artists can have a fair idea, or management or record labels, how artists are doing on radio, whether they're getting a lot of airplays, and also to strategize on how to go about their business.
Interesting. So, people might be wondering, how were you able to do this monitoring? What was the system like?
Okay, so Good Music, without giving out too much, but it's kind of like Shazam. So what we do is we are able to use a technology like Shazam, in which it's kind of like we have various phones in front of various airplays. Let's say about 60 radio stations. So we get to see what song is being played. But then it's not Shazam. It's more like our software in which it's being programmed on a cloud server that makes you listen to that. Whenever a song is played, you get to every song has its own ID. Like if Sarkodie says "ha" and stuff a number of times, you get to know that okay, that is the Sarkodie song. So we use our software to listen to the audio fingerprint of the songs online.
What is the importance of this data to our industry, our music industry, to all stakeholders?
Okay, so this data, as you can see, gives an artist or a management a fair idea on, first of all, something like royalty collection, how many times your song has been played on various radio stations, and also, let's say if you are in the case of a company like Gamro or something, that's what they can use it for. For an A&R, they can have a fair idea that look, when I look through this data, I see who's actually performing in Ghana. Let's say an international record label is scouting for artists. They get to see, oh, this artist is good. They can tour in all of these regions. They are very well played and known in all of these regions in Ghana. And also, when it comes to brands can have a fair idea that look, if I am going to do a show in Takoradi this next week, what is the data showing on what kind of music is being played in Takoradi and which artist is the top there? You have a fair idea that okay, then these artists are being played, well known, and maybe you can get them on in your whatever you're doing, whatever brand activation you're doing. When it comes to artists, you can have a look at your music. You just released the song. How is it doing across the country? Do you need to call various radio stations? Do you see which radio stations are actually playing your music? If you did a promotion, okay, what sometimes they call, well, you're like paying payola or something, or you're getting DJs to play your song. Are they actually playing it? Okay. And if you already have a couple of songs on, are you still being played? You can check and see, okay, maybe for 3 months you're on top, you're good in the Eastern region, Greater Accra region, but then it goes dead after some time. So basically, everyone can have a fair idea. For event organizers, I would say they can use the data in a way in which they can get to know that if I'm going to do a show in Kumasi, which artists should I get on board as of now? Because this is what Kumasi wants and this is what they will pay. Because like adverts, their song is being played every single day on radio.
Okay, let me just get a bit technical before I come to patronage of the service. With regards to how the system works and considering the infrastructure that is available to radio stations as it goes further into certain rural areas, how is Good Music Platform being able to retrieve this data, if you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so with this data, the country is a bit advanced in the way that there are so many radio stations which are online already. And mostly this is for business. This is not for any form of just collecting data. This is for business. So you get to see that, okay, which radio stations are relevant. That's why we use the geopol data That's why we use the geopol data to determine, okay, which radio stations are that relevant. And mostly what we got lucky is all the radio stations that geopol even has been rating for us to know that, look, this is what advertisers like, this is where business happens. They are all online. So it was easy for us to get them online and monitor them right here in Accra.
So, with regards to stakeholders using the service, can you just give us a bit overview of how this was received by the persons that you intended to target for them to use this data?
This wasn't received well by most artists. A lot of artist management team don't know what to do with the data. To tell you the truth, a lot of them are not like, we try our best to call them, let them know how their data is doing. Sometimes we hear an artist is supposed to perform somewhere in the country. We look at the data and let them know that, look, this is how your data is like. Like one example that I give is sometimes I had EA was going to perform. He had good tracks all over. We looked at the data. It looked like Kumasi, One Ghana for Your Pocket was still hot. So sometimes when you go there that you're going to play a song, play a concert that has to do with your latest songs and stuff like that, you might have to know that you need to know how to do your playlist. Yes, you need to promote the new ones, but you also need to know which ones are going to keep the crowd happy. But we didn't get a lot of positive information from corporate bodies, artists, and industry bodies.
Was this as a result of maybe the cost of the service that they had to patronage, or just sheer ignorance? From where you sit, what do you think was deterring them from accessing this data or finding it very important, to their craft?
I would say the average Ghana artist, not also, I'm just going to say maybe the average or some Ghanaian artists don't have management that understand the use of data. They've never actually used it. So at the end, we end up seeing that they don't come for it. Basically, that's how I would put it. They don't understand what they can do with it.
Isn't that a bit worrying? That's in this era or do you think that this was introduced at a time when, maybe they didn't find need in? But considering the digital space we find ourselves in now, do you think that it would be, a conversation we need to revisit? Because I know you have possibly put a hold on there, and what is the reason? If you can add that to it.
So currently, we kind of like not doing the general one in which we just do chats, we just collect data across the country. It's quite expensive. And the industry that we are collecting for, the various bodies involved, artists, agencies, collective royalty companies, they are all not requesting for it. So we kind of like do on need basis. If an artist really wants us, our servers are on. It's just a click of a button to put it back on. We've done the programming, and it's quite a big investment. So if someone is interested, an artist comes in, we can let them know that, okay, you're releasing an album. Are you targeting urban radio stations? What's the plan? Are you trying to go on tour to see how the album is doing, and you go on tour? Then you talk to us, we'll work it out, and we'll give you a fee if it works with what you want to do. Because you're trying to go on tour, you're trying to find numbers, you're trying to do a market survey. It's basically the same thing. If you're going to have people in every region trying to listen to various radio stations every day, not go to work for 1 month, sitting in a room checking, it's going to be almost the same cost that you need to pay, like almost every young employee money, times 10 or 16 regions. So we can do that for people, but we keep letting them know.
Let me ask you two questions here, probably two in one. The first is with regards to the stakeholders as well, aside from musicians. How did other stakeholders, embrace this in terms of radio stations and even the VGMA board and all? How did they embrace this? And also were media platforms, social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram and co, which presents insights already, was that also a threat to the business?
Okay, one let's just break it down a bit. So your first one was like industry, like radio station. We met a lot of radio stations. We went to see their management before doing this because we wanted them to incorporate it in their business. Sometimes you have the whole business model, how something works, but internationally it works in a certain way. So when you do your research, you get to know how you need to use the data. When you come on ground, it doesn't sit that way. We would want, like the way it's being used internationally, that if you're going to have a show before an artist comes in, we told the radio stations, look, you can have these data so you can quiz the artist. Okay, it's this Saturday is in, we can see you are doing good this way. We just released the song and we can see you already in the Upper East, Upper West, and blah, blah. To help them guide their conversation, we told them all about how they can use it, how they can maybe award certain people and improve their conversations and even who to interview. Just look at the data and realize, oh, it looks like this guy has released a song. I don't know about it, but I can see that there's a song by him and it's being played all over. Oh, let's call him in for an interview. We showed them various ways that they can use it. But when we started, it wasn't going well. And most of the time we need the song to identify the song, get the audio fingerprint of the song. It's just even as the MP3 file. We spoke to some artists, they said, cool. Others were even telling us that we need to pay them to kind of like monitor their songs for them. I'm like, really? So it hasn't been easy. Then we have like, so a lot of artists that we're trying to reach out to were not giving us their songs for us to monitor. So we're just using like GhanaMotion.com and all those online places to get the song. So we're just downloading any song that we see because we don't know what is going to be the next big thing. The industry is not structured for us to really operate. So all that we can do is try our best and get the songs. Is there any other point that I missed?
Thanks, that yeah, and how stakeholders as well, such as like the VGM, because this report you shared for 2020, I'm told you shared it with the VGMA team or China House. I want to also find out how that was received and if you've had meetings of any sort with them, to be providing data, or maybe they have their own systems already in place.
Basically, for the VGMA, I provided them with the data. I know a couple of people that I told them about what I do. So I shared it with them. It was basically the first one, which so kind of like free, given to them. They were very excited about it because when I sent it to the guy even, and he was like kind of like always waiting for the document. And I told him my graphic designer is kind of like finishing up the whole report, layout and all that. He's like, wow, this data no one should see this data. This data should be kept. It's good data. He was like, this is good. So I even they added me to the voting, so I kind of like vote, but mostly I do my voting strictly based on my data. So if I'm gonna pick within this period, I pick the artists that released within that year. I check what genre they're in. Whoever is on top is what, based on the data. That's how I do my voting for them.
Last report 2020.
But after that,
okay. No, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah, so after that, I haven't heard much from them. We tried to close a deal, but we still haven't been able to close the deal because after that, it has to be paid for and it has to be well incorporated in their scheme. But I had no feedback from them, so I just kept it like that.
Talking costs, what did it cost you to, or what does it cost you to operate this service?
The service normally cost me close to more than $50,000 to $60,000 every year to go about it. Okay, and this is kind of like even just running it on in-house designers, in-house, because I have my own company from which I do all of this. So using my staff, using in-house developers, but on the average, it's quite expensive. It's quite expensive. I did it for a number of times. There were some years that I was hitting $90,000 a year to manage the server.
I mean, Ken, You know this conversation there with Cyril is here. He also has his side of story
it's
to
for
tell.
it's just trying to create a difference. I'm from a family that we like to create a difference for our people, God, family, and friends and country. So I did it for some time. I explained, trying to get people to come on board and help. But at the point, I was like, what industry am I actually serving if no one in the industry is interested in doing the right thing?
I know. I'm asking questions as if I'm not aware of what was happening. I know. I know, right? And I feel your pain. You put in so much, but the persons you serve, like you're saying, don't seem to understand the service you are offering and the assistance. But I mean, I understand you.
I just want him to.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to ask you before, please, I pass it, then I hand the baton is, I know it's partly answered as in the support, but is it something that you would come back to? Because the last report was 2020. Would you be gingered again? And if you be gingered again, why?
Oh, I'm kind of like interested in coming back. I have a couple of projects, a whole lot of good stuff, apart from good music that I'm working on. But I'm just trying to rethink the business model. I'm not trying to use the average business model for an average data management company that you have your clients who are requesting for your data. Like let's say example, KPMG auditing firm, they have their clients that are needs to be audited. I know in Ghana I have clients that needs to be monitored so that they can gain their craft. There's no use, let's say, having $60,000, $90,000 buying a car, whilst I know that if I invest it in this business, we can get various artists making more than that. And if they make more than that, they can pay me back mine. Then I can go get my car. But I feel like I'm just trying to I have a couple of new business model because, it was like, I was quiet for a while, but everybody is now asking for data and wanting information. Why don't we have data? So yes, I have a couple of business model in mind. I'll come back.
Well, Antoine is smiling there. Okay, but before we move to Antoine, Antoine, it's been a minute. Lenny has got a question in here. Lenny, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ole, I jumped you.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry,
it's okay.
please.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think you asked my question.
Okay, in the comeback, right? I want to know what structures he's looking to put in place so that at least things work better than they did when he was doing the good job that he was doing, regardless of if he's going to be getting support or not.
Okay, let me just share this out. If I'm coming back, the revenue to pay for the operation of the business shouldn't be maybe 100% from the people who use the data. Because first of all, you can see that we sat down as a team to realize that the people who use the data are not going to be the ones that are going to pay. So is there anyone who's going to benefit of letting people know of the data? Because we've got a bit of mileage on social media and all over with the name Good Music. So if a brand is going to tag along, their brand is also going to go far. And we're not just going to give data online. We're going to work with in a way that, okay, the person actually paying is not interested in using the data for something bad, is interested in the space in which the data is being used. That is the music industry and all that. So how do we work together, get your brand out there, and also maybe for companies that are interested in a corporate social responsibility? Everybody knows that, like, look, the music industry is big. We are out there in the world because of Afrobeat and Ghana and Nigeria music making us proud. But if you look through a lot of artist management team, they don't have data analysts. They just have road managers and others. But the business model side, a lot of them don't have. But then they are an asset. It's like gold. Music is an asset to the country. So are they going to help us that, look, let's get the structures that can let them thrive? It's not only we built a studio, go and rap, because now even the studio, there's so many types out there. So let's get them the data. So yes, we can run if we have a system in which the revenue source for the business is not by the users for about 2-3 years. Their users are going to get so used to it. Their lifestyle is going to be, and their business model is going to be based on the data for about 2, 3 years. When that maybe corporate body or NGO, whatever that help keep a data running system in the country for some time is done with their job. You have not, then when you're paying, you know that, look, I actually need this data. It's like you now know that you actually need to buy a SIM card, buy data on it, and go on Facebook or Twitter and tweet to make your music go out. It's like you know that you actually have to get data to see how you're doing in Ghana and around the world so that you can actually plan your craft.
Yes.
So I feel that's one business model.
Okay, all right. Ken, hold on right there for me. Let me switch over to Antoine now, who also joins us on the show. Antoine and Aftown is like bread and butter. I mean, I know how much Antoine had slaved and worked so hard, you know, on Aftown. But lately, of course, we've seen the rise of Boom Plays and Co. You know, making strong headways within the same space. But let me ask you about the story of Aftown, be it success or be it success or you know, failure, or no, I don't want to use the word failure, or hardships or challenges. I'm just told that we just lost a connection to Antoine and Ken, but I'm sure if I pass the mic around here for us to share our stories on.
I just wanted to, you know, chime in on what Ken said about the artist knowing which song is buzzing in the various regions and activating the music even further. And also for event planners who actually look for artists to put on the bill. I think it's an important information. So it's not even just for artists or those who are working in radio. As an event planner, if maybe you are, you know, doing a music event and you know you want to know what artists I need to bring to this town, you have data here that is showing you. Like for example, let me just give you an example, right? In Ashanti region, I'm going to give you the top 10 songs in Ashanti region. Ashanti region, it was Kiddies Enjoyment, Darko Vibes in a song, Stoneboy Sobolo, Kiddies Say Cheese, Kim Promise Sessa, Stoneboy Nominate, Asabone by Lord Pepper and Bosumpe Young, Open Gate by Kwame Eugene, you have Putu, you have Happy Day. These are the top 10 songs playing in Ashanti region right now. So if you are an investor and you want to bring art to Ashanti region, these are the songs that are being played. So you are guaranteed at least. I mean, data is not always, you know, your dipstick, but you can use that to start the
simple. It guides you. Antoine is on the line now. Antoine, again, good morning. How you doing, my brother?
Morning, bro. Morning. Charlie, I'm good. Good.
Are you really good? Are you good?
I am, bro.
Are you good? Are you hurt?
Good.
Are you disappointed? Which one do I even start off with? Which of these three?
I think once you move past initially for a long time, and I also speak for some of my partners with Aftown, there was a lot of disappointment in the span of the first 4 years of running Aftown, but there were a lot of wins in there that balanced it out nicely. So it's not too much of a bad story altogether. Yeah.
How was Aftown received, you know, and its purpose for you know, just to give knowledge to our listeners who possibly don't have an idea what Aftown is? How was it received and what is it?
I'll start out with what it is. It's a music streaming platform, like all the other platforms that you have today that as vibrant as they are. But when we started Aftown, it was during a time where you did have Apple Music, but iTunes was the big deal. You know, you go to iTunes to buy music. You know, iTunes eventually became Apple Music. You know, so when Jeff, who's actually the founder of Aftown, kicked it off and reached out to me and my partner Roland, it was just a music platform where you buy music using mobile money. So you log in, you create an account, you top up your account like you top up any other account, like your data service account or anything else. And with the money you have in that account, you then go ahead, search for your favorite artist, and go ahead and purchase their song for 50 pesos, where some artists were selling it for 1 CD, some 5 CDs. Some artists were selling their songs or albums for 50 CDs, 100 CDs. And during that span of time, I would say we had a good run, but not as good as it could have been, you know, in that span of time. I'll say good run because there were some artists that, you know, when approached, they totally got it. People like Stoneboy, people like Sal Cordier, people like Shatawale. It wasn't difficult. People like Joe Metal, especially people in the gospel fraternity, they were quick to understand quick to license their music to us, and easily jumped on board for us to start running promotions. Kojo Q, Shaker, EL. I could go on and on, but you realize that these artists are in the minority. Ghana's music industry, to be honest, we really don't have that many artists if you look at it. I'd say the challenge was convincing Ghanaians to hop on board and use the platform as much as they could have. Eventually we realized that the world was going to, streaming. So we introduced Aftown Music, which was a 100% streaming platform, same benefits as artists. But with us, our key aim was to make sure that the artists are able to access their money as and when they need to. They don't have to wait a whole year or 3 months or 2 years before they get their money. So there's so many artists that, Charlie, they would call us, I need some money. They go into their account, they click withdraw, they're able to access their money immediately, go to the studio with it, shoot a music video with it. There are artists who benefited a lot. Some people could withdraw 5K, 10K, 12K. So the model was really, really working during that time. It really was.
Antoine, let me ask you a question with regards to the culture of Ghanaians buying music as opposed to downloading for free, and you hear the AAA and all those things. How did that also play, in your space with regards to getting artists to put their songs on After, make money, just the business case from your end?
From the artist perspective, and again, I think that's why a lot of the mainstream artists like Stonebwoy and Sarkodie got it, because they had started, they were in the culture of using iTunes, using Apple Music, receiving their royalty payments from there. So with some artists, they easily understood A-list, B-list artists. With C-list artists and those who are now on the come up, it was a big challenge because for them, they'd rather have their songs on the free platforms, which were giving them mileage. Platforms like GhanaMixtapes.com and a few others. I forget them now, but there were about 4 key websites that you could always go to for new music. For an upcoming artist, it's like a goal on their list, their PR list. One of them is to get my music on that free platform, which would get me the mileage that I need. So it's like, do I put my music out for free? I now want people to hear me, or I put it somewhere where I can sell it. For us, it was, there are people who will always choose to buy your music because we realized there was a progressive amount of Ghanaians, even though they were a small number, they were a small fraction, but there was a progressive number of Ghanaians who were willing to still purchase your music instead of downloading for free. So why don't we start early, start now, and tap into that number? So yes, you can give it out for free, but you could at least make 1,000 or 2,000 and maybe even 5,000 CDs from people who are willing to purchase your music. It worked to a large extent, but again, I'll say not enough, to get it where it could have been.
So, there was a point in time where in any artist saying and using the statement, my song is on the digital stores, they always mentioned Aftown Music, as a Ghanaian, a homegrown brand. What possibly led to that detachment, from some of the artists with their products on Aftown, and still they continue possibly running on other DSPs?
Man, so this is a touch point for us, especially. We realized really early that the strategy we could work with was get the big fish first, and everybody else will follow. So to a large extent, it worked. We had a billboard with Stonebwoy in town, we had a billboard with Kojo Q and Shaker in town. There was no reason why you, the B or C-list artist, wouldn't trust Aftown. So for us, it became very important for us to make sure that the promises we made to artists like Stonebwoy, Sak, Kojo Q, Walasi, even Pure Akan, we were sticking to that promise by going the extra mile to support them in concerts, listening sessions, sometimes even sponsoring the projects, the music they were working on. So there was a certain level of legitimacy that we were able to penetrate the market with. And with that, Ghanaians would freely say, and a lot of education. We had a number of Aftown workshops. And during those workshops, we emphasized how they could help market the brand by saying, hey, my name is this, and my song is on Aftown. Just include us to the other tall list of people you're saying. Why it started dipping is also a reason why Aftown sort of, I wouldn't say, started dipping, but also just, went on autopilot. It was competition. We got to a point where we got a solid deal with MTN. We're able to work out a deal where you could stream music with airtime. We had deals with distribution companies in South Africa, especially in Nigeria. I'll tell you, at a point, we had a lot more Nigerian artists on Aftown than even Ghanaian artists.
Why would that be? Tell us why.
because we had Nigerian distribution companies and artists flying down to Ghana to meet us. We had South African distribution companies saying, "Hey, we've heard of you guys. We see you're buzzing. When are you in SA? Let's have meetings." So they were a lot more proactive about it because the music ecosystem and music business in those countries were far more advanced than was in Ghana during that time. So at a point in time, we had to make a conscious effort to make sure that when you go to the forefront of Aftown, you see a lot more Ghanaian music than Nigerian. But in the back end, there was a lot more Nigerian content and South African content than Ghanaian content. So it got to a time competition came in. Boomplay, Audiomack, they came into the business and they had a free model, something that we weren't offering. Our model was paid for because a key goal for us was making sure our music business was profitable. So we didn't want to run an ad-based system at the moment. We thought, Ghanaians can purchase enough or stream enough through MTN, through the Aftown paid platforms to make enough revenue for the artists. Because the free platforms, a lot of them are backed by big investors. So they can go 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years not being. Spotify only started becoming profitable after 10 years plus in the business. But we didn't have that luxury. This is a Ghanaian company that was being funded by Ghanaians, everyday Ghanaians who put in their hard-earned money to say, let's make the music business better. So at the time where Boomplay came in, Boomplay were coming in with financial power that Charlie, you really can't match at the time. And it was a free music platform. Same with Audiomack. And the incentives they started offering artists, even though similar to ours, had a lot more firepower than what we had, and were willing to offer artists at the time. So it's competition is business. With the money they had, they easily took over, and artists started leaning towards them more than they did us. And we got to a point in time where we realized, you know what, we need to open Aftown up. So we introduced a free model as well, an advertising-based model, and that's what we're still working with, different agencies and advertising companies to see how much money we can push through there. But that's really what happened. It was a case of money and a case of pushing money into the business. And when we got to a point where Aftown was viable to interested investors from all over the world, because we had amazing offers, the problem there became they came in, we started having meetings, and they came at the point where Boomplay and Audiomack became immediately number one, number two. Spotify introduced Spotify Africa. They started heavy marketing across Africa. They started SA first, then they started Ghana. So the business case became lighter than it was. We weren't the only players in the music streaming system in Ghana. There were other stronger players, and that affected our viability for the investment we're looking for.
Well, which is fair. It's also a money conversation. But let me just jump real quick to your back end for a split second. The data you were receiving, you touched lightly on a lot of Nigerian, South African. Is there anything else to the back end data that you were getting that possibly we could share? But anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, man.
Yeah. So I was asking with regards to the back end data. You touched lightly on South African, Nigerian. Is there any other unique data you were getting at the back end?
Yes, man. We were able to tell what artists were being listened to the most. We're able to tell what genres were being listened to now, and with that, you take a trend of 3 months. You're able to predict what the next 3 months are going to look like through, average strikings and things like that. But we're able to predict that, how many minutes or seconds somebody's listening to your song for before they actually switch it, where they're listening to you from, down to the region, down to what phones they're using to listen to, down to if people have started using TV sets, everything from back end.
I'm trying to shock us a little bit. Let's get some of these insights. What are some of the ones that really wowed you personally?
Man, Kumase are big time downloaders and streamers. It will shock you, but they really support their own. And I even extended to us seeing the data for other streaming services like Audiomack and Boomplay, especially Audiomack. They share the same data with us that Kumase is a very strong point. People don't see it as that, but they're very big on music consumption. Also, artists like, another very interesting data bit is artists like Pure Akan, artists like Walasi, which our industry would tag as Alte. Their following are more likely to spend money on them than artists like more commercial artists, because the type of following they gather I guess is the type of music they do, the message in the music. It appeals to people who have a higher purchasing power than no disrespect than other artists, So you'd have people like Pure Khan, you'd realize that the same people who are listening, streaming the music, buying that. You'd have people who stream the music on Aftown Music, but then would actually go to aftown.com and buy the album and go to the extent of, because we also introduced a tipping mechanism. If you love the music, you can go ahead and tip them. Go ahead and tip them. So while people would say top artists for them on their list was Stonebwoy and Joe Metal or so, we would have artists like Pure Khan and Walasi pop up in our top 10 because on the financial side, people are actually paying and investing. And when we started supporting these artists with events, you'd realize is that you go to a concert like Walla Fest at Allianz Française, see about 500 plus people come, and it's the same people. When we are at the front of the gate checking if they have Aftown Music, they'll tell you, yeah, I actually bought his album already. So those are some of the interesting things that we noticed. There was a market of people who were ready to pay for music. That market just needed to grow. And the way we saw it, the better things became in Ghana for the average Ghanaian or the average 18 to 35 plus, the more money they'd have to spend, they'd be willing to spend, purchasing or supporting anything related to the music ecosystem.
Sorry, Antoine. So my final question to you, our time is almost up here, is good music, Aftown, Log On Radio, these are all digital services that are providing a certain data to support our artists, but the feedback hasn't been too promising and too supportive as well from the people that we work for. Is this something that you would want to ever go back and invest in emotionally as you stand now?
Charlie, I mean, Jay, let me say this as short as possible. The big answer is, and I think I speak for maybe you even because Log On Radio was you and Ken. I use Ken's services a lot, but there's a time where entrepreneurs like us in our youthful age have time and money to spend on pursuing these exploits. I also speak for my partners, but you'll get to an age or a time where if you don't get the support you need, you don't have the luxury of time or money to invest in these things anymore. Personally, that's what happened to me. So I had to remodel my contribution to the music ecosystem and make sure that it was structured in a way that makes business sense for myself or any investor that comes in. And it's the same thing that we did for Aftown and growing Aftown. We realized that, hey, this is what we need to do. But I will say this. I've done a lot more research, after being very actively involved in Aftown. I've had the chance of working with businesses like Ayoba, which is worked under MTN. And I realized that a lot of these companies, Jay, have money that doesn't span 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They have investors that are willing to back them for 10, 15, 20 years. And when you look at the strategy that needs to work for companies like ours, even Ken's company, is a generational thing. There's a generation that won't recognize what Aftown is, or what Log On Radio is, or the contribution to that good music has to the business. But when you start education from a certain stage, the high school kids, the level 100, level 200, that valued it and showed response, are going to grow, get into the positions of marketing managers or whatever. So it's a cycle. So the key is for us to be able to build businesses or structures and run strategies that will last the cycle enough so that by the time we are about to ripen, we are ready for investment, we don't drop off because we didn't have the structure to push us through to the end. That's what I realized. There's this documentary on Netflix, it's a Spotify documentary. You realize these guys went 10 years, 8 years. A lot of these tech companies and music streaming services, the truth is they're not really profiting now, but they have what it takes to go through the dry, season until it gets to the point where it's profitable and it's making enough money.
Antoine Mensah, thank you very much. I don't know whether to cry or to be. Oh, anyway, thank you very much, Antoine. We'll catch up. It's been a minute, but we'll catch up.
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, Let me just say this real quickly before we continue. That I'm sorry we had Baba J and Yahir on the line to join us for a quick conversation, but time is far gone, and we want to have more time with them. We don't want to have a rushed interview, so please pardon us, our two budding artists. We'll definitely make this happen again very soon, and to our listeners as well who are also locked on and hoping to have heard them. We promise to get that interview back on the screens. Guys, Cyril has been quiet all through because he is like they've used a knife to remove his hat, and they're doing this. Go, David, they put your hat for sling top way they do so.
Yesterday, in
You
the
see,
conversation with Ken, he
these
mentioned,
are the thought-provoking conversations that should go viral.
yeah,
I leave it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was having a conversation
Ghanaians
with Ken,
accepting their
and
own.
yeah, we like look. Even what Antoine is saying, you can clearly see that we are always late to the party. We are always late to the party. Like, it's not like we are not innovative. We are very innovative. Like, look at what After was like light years ahead of some of the things that we are seeing today.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, and even with what good music is doing, you have labels like Mavens, Universal Music asking Ken for data. Yesterday, I saw emails and I saw conversations with these labels who were actively asking Ken for data because they needed it. And I'm not even talking about maybe 2018 or 2019, 2021. Yeah, so sometimes when we talk about the problems, it's not because the artists are not giving us good music. They may be giving us good music, but the artists themselves are not even using the data that is being produced locally. So how do you activate your music? It's now try and error. Oh, Charlie, we hear people are song the path for the streets. The street, make go street. How are you going to the streets? How do you know what song you have to perform to get the streets still talking about you when you leave? You get me? How do you even go to an investor and say, Bossu, this song is popping on its own in this region. We need some more money to push it, and you're going to make your money back. You don't have it.
I mean, I'm sure if all three of us decide to start airing and speaking out bluntly, the things that we say, but you see,
in 2020, good music identified Bosupi Young, Kofi Jama, Jackie, Kamido, Dead People and Rich Kents, as well as Asaka Boys for the next big thing in 2020. In 2025 artists. 5.
Cyril, you just say something and then make it because you can get for you. Make I give you 5 minutes. Okay, you use 2 minutes for the 5 inside. Talk something. You say anything. If you're talking about anything, T.
I like for me personally, I think I'm overexposed to the issue. I've been on the artist side, I've been on the business side, and even all these innovators are very close friends of mine. I've known Antoine since the inception of this. I've known Ken since the inception of good music. And the challenges and the disheartening journey is just a constant reminder that we are not serious. Artist teams are a joke. We think music business is about the music. We fail to see that data is the most valuable commodity on the planet. And we wait until something is embraced by external individuals before we seek to chase the value that we once rejected. And just thinking about it, I've been quiet the whole time. I didn't even realize I've been quiet for an hour because I've been in my head.
It's a Guinness World Record.
Yeah. The like, Charlie, so what do worry we? Film is the same problem. Fashion is the same problem. We genuinely cannot appreciate each other and grow together as any form of an institution or industry. It's everywhere. For Jay Foley to create something and for Olele to say, whoa, let me jump on it, it is the biggest task forever. It is near impossible. Look at some of the nonsense that good music faced. Artists asking to be paid so that their music could be monitored. If that is not the Mount Everest of ignorance, where people are rather paying people to mine data for them, when your best friend from class 4 is your manager, how will you succeed? Who has not empowered himself, doesn't know what is happening in the music business world. And then we complain. And listen, Nigeria will continue winning. until we realize that we are in a battlefield. If we continue to play and think that studio and vibes, and I know Foley go play the song, I know this guy go play the song. If we think that is the formula to winning this race, then we have lost. We should close shop. Our biggest artists have had their biggest breaks and successes thanks to external, international opportunities. Everything for the country inside be beans. Everything you can, the height of what you can get in Ghana, the pinnacle, name it. What award can you get in Ghana for being the best? What award can they give you? And when you step out of the shores of Ghana, what is that worth? When we hail you as a king, as the king's new clothes, that story, that adage, when he was walking around naked and people were hailing him for his nonsense, that's what we do in Ghana. What award can they give you in Ghana for film, fashion, music that is valuable anywhere else than Ghana? Nothing. Nothing. A king of the blind. Who are you leading? I mean, we need to get serious. It's not even about music anymore. It's about us as individuals. We are consciously dumbing down, showing our ignorance to the world, and losing out on opportunities. If 5 years ago, a computer software system was able to identify Jackie, Kofi Jamal, Kamido, and a few others, a software was able to see what industry bigwigs and so-called gatekeepers and wine could not see.
Yeah.
And a computer laptop somewhere could see this. Do you know what it means for even these successful brands? It means Kamido could be 10 times bigger than he is now. It means Jackie could be 10 times bigger than she is now.
I remember in wrapping up, I was driving around, I think around Osu somewhere, and I counted down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I said, they're going to play Lucy K's song. Boom, and he played. Because there was a system at the back that was working. On that note, we're back again same time tomorrow. It's Olele, Lenny, Serial, and myself.
It is well, okay?